So today we're going to be reviewing some problems from Chapter 9. They're very similar to the ones that will be on your test going forward. The biggest thing I have for Chapter 9 is make sure you have Desmos open, have it at your disposal because it will come in handy quite a bit. All right, so let's look at question number 1. It says, write an equation of a parabola y equals 4x squared minus 8x plus 1 in standard form. Now, if we're going to do this, what we're going to do is we said the first thing we did was to factor out the number that was in front of x squared. So that would be 4x squared minus 2x, and then we did plus blank, and then whatever trailed at the end, our constant, we did that minus blank. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to complete the square. And so what we did is we said, okay, well, what's half of negative 2? Well, that's negative 1, and then we squared it, so it'd be positive 1. And then if we have it here, we have to jump and say 4 times 1 is 4, okay? So what we're left with is y equals 4, and then in parentheses, now that's a perfect square trinomial. So we purposely chose it so that it would be x, and then that half of minus 2, so minus 1 squared, and then we had plus 1 minus 4, so that would be minus 3, okay? So which one of those is our answer? Well, that's going to be C. We could also, if you didn't know how to do all this, it's totally fine. The other thing you could do is you could actually check with Desmos by putting in all 4 of them and our original equation into Desmos and seeing which one is the same. So let's do that, okay? So we're going to say y equals 4x squared minus 8x plus 1. Okay, so that's our equation originally. Now in standard form, when we solved it out, we got y equals 4 times the quantity x minus 1 squared, and then minus 3. And you'll see that between the two, the red and the blue are right on top of each other. So we know for sure they're the same. If you didn't know how to put it in standard form, but you wanted to try A, B, C, and D, graphing those, you'd see that they're going to be equal as well, okay? All right. Okay, let's go to the next one. All right, now it says which graph is graphed below. Now this is a hyperbola, and so what we could do is I could actually figure out the equation, okay? And so what we do to do that is, remember, it's always x squared over something minus y squared over something equals 1, or the y comes first. And so if we wanted to look at these and do that, I'd take 36 and I would divide everything by 36, right? Okay, if I divided by everything by 36, A would be, well, let's see, 9 divided by 36 is 1/4. So it would be x squared over 1/4 or over 4 minus y squared over 9 equals 1. And I could graph that to make sure it's the same. Okay, so if you think about it, that's a horizontal graph, and so we know that our equations are of the form y equals b over a. That's our asymptote line. So b in our case would be 3, because the square root of 9 is 3 and the square root of 4 is 2. So our equation would actually be 3 over 2, right? And so if I look at this, okay, I look at this one, it goes up 2 and over 3. So that actually means that our equation, or our line, should be y equals 2 over 3, which then means that in our case, A is going to be 2 and B is going to be 3. Excuse me, B is still 2 and A is 3. So that means that our equation can't be this one. It can't be A. So what that means is it's probably going to be B. Since it's horizontal, we know that X is going to come first, okay? And so obviously C and D don't have them coming first, right? So just to verify, we could divide and we would get A to be 3 and B to be 2. You would get x squared over 9 minus y squared over 4 equals 1. Right? And so that's what it should be. Now, let's just verify. Again, we're going to use we're going to use Desmos to verify, okay? So we look at it and we say, okay, so let's do, I believe it was 4x squared minus 9x squared equals 36. It doesn't want, okay. And so we look right there, where's our endpoints, 0, 3, -3, okay? It's vertical just like we have, okay, so that's good. So let's look at it, make sure that that's the case. Yep, perfect. So we know for sure that the answer to this one is going to for sure be B. Now, if you weren't sure and you wanted to see if it's A, let's graph it real quick. All right, graph it. And so the only difference was we had 9 here and we had 4, right? And so we'd see, oh, those end actually at -2 and 2, which we know are not the case from our picture. Those end at 3 and -3. So for sure it's going to be B and not A. All right, let's look at question number 3. It says, which equation is a circle? All right, so let's say you have no idea. You're not sure what to do with this one. What you can do is you can actually just go and start graphing all of them. So let's start with A, which is 6x squared minus 12x. 6x squared minus 12x equals 6y squared plus 1. 6y squared plus 1. And so I graph this and I say, okay, well, that's a hyperbola. That's not a circle, so it's not going to be A. Right, so automatically we know it's not A. Okay, let's go to B. 6x squared minus 12x plus 6y squared equals 1. Okay, so let's try it out. That is an equation of a circle. So for sure we know that B is the correct answer. Okay, and that would be my best bet if you were wondering if you have a whole bunch of equations in front of you. I would just suggest trying to graph them on Desmos to figure it out. All right, number 4. Solve the system of equations by graphing y equals x squared minus 2 and y equals 2x minus 2. So it's a system of equations, meaning there's going to be, obviously you can see that there's 2 points where that are our solutions, right? Where they're going to cross, right? Because the solution of a system is where 2 things cross. So all we're going to do is we're just going to graph these 2. We're going to graph y equals x squared minus 2. And then we're also going to graph y equals 2x minus 2. To make sure. Yep. Okay, and so our 2 solutions are where they meet, and that's going to be 0, -2, and 2, 2. So 0, -2, and 2, 2, that would be option D. Okay, so the correct answer for this one is D. All right, number 5. Which is the equation of a circle centered at 0, 1 with a radius of 2 units? Okay, so again, we could do this on Desmos. We could also complete the square and figure it out as well. Let's start by trying to complete the square, and then if you'd like to, you could graph it on Desmos. All right, so how do we do this? Well, first off, we know that if I looked at A, okay, so A is x squared plus y squared minus 2y. So we know for sure, if that's the case, that I know for sure that it's going to just be x squared because it's 0. So it's going to be x minus 0, which is fine. We don't have to put anything in there. And then y minus 1. Well, I have a good feeling about A because I have 2y right there, right? So I'm going to say y squared plus 2y, and then it's plus 1, or excuse me, plus something equals 3 plus something, okay? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, okay, well, what's half of 2? It's 1. 1 squared is 1, and 1. And I end up getting x squared plus, and this, again, is completing the square. It's going to be y plus 1 squared equals 4. Now, that's a good thing because it's equal to 4 means that its radius is going to be 2 because we always said that in a circle equation, it's always equal to the square root of r squared, right? However, the problem with this one right here is y minus 1 or y plus 1. And so that would be centered at the point 0, negative 1. And so it's not this one. Okay, so it's not going to be A. All right. We notice that B is very similar to it. The only difference is that we have 1 on the one side, so it's not going to be that one. And it's not going to be C because that has 4, and we would add 1 would be 5. So the only answer it's going to be for sure is going to be D. Now, let's verify our answer with decimals. Okay, so we're going to do x squared plus y squared minus 2y equals 3. And we see that this is a circle. It is centered at 0, 1. That's that point right there. They don't show it. And it has a radius of 1, 2 units. So for sure, this is correct. Okay? All right. Now, number 6. It says write an equation of a circle that if the endpoints of the diameter are 1, 1 and 1, negative 9. So the first thing we have to do is we have to find the center. Now the center is the midpoint between the two endpoints, right? So I'm going to take 1 plus 1 divided by 2, and I'm going to take 1 plus negative 9 divided by 2. When I do that, I end up getting 2 divided by 2 is 1, and negative 8 divided by 2 is negative 4. So that means for sure that I'm going to have a center at 1, negative 4. So that means I know for sure it's going to be x minus 1 squared plus y plus 4 squared is equal to some r squared. Okay, well, if I know that 1, 1 is one of my endpoints, and I know that 1, negative 4 is my center, how many units is it from 1, 1 to 1, negative 4? There's lots of different ways I can do it. I could graph it and look. I could use the distance formula. But I can also say, okay, well, if 1 and 1 are the same, there's no change there. 1 to negative 4 is 5 units. So this is actually going to be equal to 5 squared because it was always equal to the radius squared. And so that means that if we square 5, that would be 25. And so the equation of our circle is going to be B. Okay? So we know that one's is for sure correct. Now, again, if you wanted to check your answer, you're more than welcome to graph it on decimals. In fact, why don't we do that and just verify? So that's going to be x minus 1 squared. And then it is plus y plus 4 squared equals 25. All right, so this for sure, you'll see that it has endpoint at, see, we're making sure, 1, 1. Okay, so 1, 1 and 1, negative 9. So for sure, those are endpoints. We know that we did this correct, okay? Very good. All right, number 7. It says write an equation for a parabola with foci 1, 3 and vertex 0, 3. Okay, so basically what we want to do with this problem is if we know the vertex, right, we know that it's going to be, we know that for sure it's going to be of some form that we can look up later. Now, if we know the vertex is going to be at 0, 3 and the foci is at 1, 3, it means that the foci has moved 1 unit on the x-axis. So basically, if I'm thinking of it like this, right? Okay, so if I'm looking at it like this, if I know that my vertex is at 0, 3, right there, and my foci is here, it means that my parabola has to go like this, right? Because the foci was right inside our parabola. So that means it can't be a y equals problem. The only way it works is if it's an x equals problem. So that actually gets rid of A, B, and C, right? And so let's verify and look at it just to make sure. So we'll look at Desmos and we'll say, okay, x equals 1/4 y minus 3 quantity squared. And we'll see I do have a vertex at 0, 3, and my foci, they don't graph that, but we can know that it could be right here, right in there, and then everything is equidistant from that point. Okay? Okay. Now, number 8 and number 9 have to do with this graph right here. It says, what is the distance from the museum to the sailing club? Okay, so the sailing club is at the point 9, 8. Okay, so that's the sailing club, and I'll label it as such. All right, and the museum is at the point 7, 1. Again, how do you find distances? Well, that's the distance formula. So that's one of those formulas that you probably want to know. Remember, that's x2 minus x1 quantity squared plus y2 minus y1 quantity squared. Okay, and so we're just going to plug our numbers in. Okay, so ours are going to be, let's see, x2, let's label these x1, y1, and x2, y2, right? So x2 is 7 minus y1, which is 9, or excuse me, x1, plus, and then we get 1 minus 8 squared, all right? And so if we are going to continue working on this problem, right, we would say, okay, well, let's simplify a little bit. So that's going to be negative 2 squared plus negative 7 squared, which is equal to the square root of 4 plus 49, which is equal to the square root of 53. So this is the distance between those is the square root of 53 units. So the correct answer is A. Okay, again, that's the distance formula. This is important. I would put this in your notes and ready at your disposal for the test. Now, number 9, it says, what is the halfway point between the hospital and the arena? Okay, so basically we're trying to find the midpoint between hospital and arena. So the hospital's point is going to be the point 3,3. And the arena, its point is at 2,9. Okay, and so we need to find the midpoint. So again, midpoint, we add the x's. So it's going to be 3 plus 2, and then divide by 2. And we add the y's, 3 plus 9 divided by 2. All right, and so when we do that, we get, okay, well, 3 plus 2 is 5 over 2, and 3 plus 9 is 12 divided by 2 is 6. And so then our point would be C, 5 halves, 6. All right, next one, number 10. It says, find the center and radius of a circle with equation x minus 1 squared plus y squared equals 16. So from the equation of a circle, which is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared, we can figure out that our h is going to be 1. Our k is, well, there's y is by itself, so k is going to be 0. And then the radius is going to be the square root of 16, which we know to be 4. And so this one is centered at 1, 0 with radius 4. So A is the correct answer. Okay, number 11, write the equation 2y squared minus 4y minus x plus 12 equals 0 in standard form. So again, I'm going to start with factoring out that 2. So it's going to be y squared minus 2y plus something. And then we're going to have minus x. And then we're going to have plus 12 equals 0. Now, what's interesting about that is that I just have an x by itself. There's no x squared. So I'm going to just add x to both sides. And what I end up getting is 2y squared minus 2y plus something is equal to, and actually I'm going to, well, no, I'll keep 12 here. And then we're going to say minus 12. So we'll add 12 equals x. Okay, so just like we did before when completing the square, we take half of negative 2, which is negative 1. Negative 1 squared is 1. And I'm actually going to subtract it from 12 because I'm going to keep it on the same side, right? So 2 times 1 right to there would be 2. And so what ends up happening is I have this 2 on the outside, and then I have y minus 1, remember it was that half, squared, and then 12 minus 2 would be plus 10 equals x, right? So which one of those is our equation? X equals 2 times the quantity, y minus 1 plus 10. That would be B. Okay, and again, we could check our answer using Desmos. So what we'll do is we'll just graph 2y squared minus 4y and minus x plus 12 equals 0. Okay, and we see some parabola laying on its side just like that. And we're going to graph what we just had, which was x equals 2 times the quantity, y minus 1 squared plus 10. And you'll see purple and green are right on top of each other, so we know for sure they are equal. Okay? All right, let's look at number 12. It says write an equation of a hyperbola with vertices 0, -1, and 0, 3 with these foci right there. Okay? So first off, if we know that those are our vertices, we can figure out our center. So our center is going to be the midpoint of those two. So again, 0 plus 0 over 2. And then we would have -1 plus 3 over 2. And so our midpoint is going to be, well, 0 divided by 2 is just 0. And -1 plus 2 or 3 is 2. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Okay, so we get the center 0, 1. Okay, and so that means we're going to have x squared by itself and y minus 1 by itself. Okay, so automatically we get either option C or D, right? So now we have to figure out, is this going to be sitting, or is this a horizontal or is this a vertical hyperbola? And so what we'll do is I'll just, over here, I'm going to kind of just plot out a couple points and see what happens, right? Okay. And so it's a hyperbola, so they're going to go in opposite directions. But if I know that 0, -1 is one of my points, and I know that 0, 3 is one of my points, those are my vertices, and my foci are at 0, 5 and 0, -3, it means they're going to go like this, right? Okay. And so this is going to be, it's a vertical one, which means my y has to come first. And so automatically we know that it's going to be C. Okay. Again, how do we check our answer? Well, what we can do is we can graph it, right? We're going to graph this hyperbola, which is y minus 1 squared. All of that divided by, I believe it was 4. Minus x squared 12 equals 1. And then I graph this and I see that I have endpoints at 0, 3 and 0, -1. Again, it doesn't tell you the foci, but it could be right there at 0, 5 and 1 right there at 0, -3. Okay, so we know we did it right. Okay, let's look at 13. It says, which is the equation of an ellipse with center -4, 2 on a horizontal major axis? Okay, so horizontal major axis means that if we're going to quickly, Okay, if we're going to graph that, okay, horizontal major axis means that x is going to come first, right? It's centered at -4 and then 2. Okay, so it's going to be right there, and it's going to be some sort of an ellipse looking kind of like this, right? So we know x comes first, so automatically I get rid of c and I get rid of d. Okay, automatically I know it's not going to be c or d. So now I have to figure out, is it going to be A or B? Well, remember back to our equation of ellipse, which was x minus h squared over a squared plus y minus k squared over b squared equals 1, right? And so right away, I think, okay, well, if my x is -4, so it's going to be x minus -4 squared plus y minus 2 squared. And these can be over whatever they are. Let's say they're 6 and 4 like they give us, equals 1. And so then our correct answer is going to be A. Okay? And again, I could check my answer on Desmos just to make sure that I am correct. Okay? 14. Write an equation for an ellipse if the endpoints of the major axis are 1, 6, and 1, -6, and the endpoints of the minor axis are 5, 0, and -3, 0. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to find my center. So it's basically, what is the midpoint of 1, 6, and 1, -6? Okay, and so 1 plus 1 is 2, divided by 2 is 1. 6 plus -6 is 0, divided by 2 is 0. So our center is at 0, 1. Okay. And we also know, okay, so if we're thinking about this in terms of some sort of a graph, if our points are at 1, 6 up there and 1, -6 down there, okay, and that's our major axis, it means it's a vertical one, which means that our y is going to come first. So automatically, I get rid of A and I get rid of B. So then, once I do that, I stop and I think, okay, well, since I know my center is at 1, 0, I know that it's going to be x minus 1 squared. So the only option that has that and y coming first is C. And so I know for sure that C is the correct answer. Again, I could graph it, make sure these points are on there. In fact, why don't we do that real quick? We're going to graph that, and we're going to say y squared over 36 plus x minus 1 squared over 16 equals 1. And so you'll see, okay, I have endpoint at 1, 6, 1, -6. My minor axis is 5, 0, and -3, 0, which again, they give us right there. So we know for sure C is correct. All right, number 15. It says, which equation is graphed below? Okay, and so what I would do is I would actually just start graphing these. Now, automatically there is one I can get rid of. Right away, I know I can get rid of B. And the reason I can get rid of B is because that's an x equals problem. It means it would be a parabola that was like this or like this, right? And so it's not that. So right away, it's this. There's another one I can get rid of too, if I remember stories or equations of parabolas, which is right there, it's going to be A, because that has an A value that's positive. So it would be opening up instead of opening down. So now it's basically a 50-50 shot. Is it C or is it D? So let's start by graphing C. If it's not that one, then it's going to be B. All right, so let's graph it. So we get y equals x, excuse me, -2x squared minus 8x plus 7. Or excuse me, plus 8x minus 7. That looks pretty good. We see the 0.21 on it. Okay, so if I look at it, yep, 2, 1 is a point on it. So it's most likely going to be C. So I'll put a little question mark by C. Now let's check out D, just to make sure that we are correct for sure. So change this to -8. Oh, and that one is -2, 1, so I know for sure it's got to be C. Okay. All right, let's look at 16. It says to write the equation in standard form. Okay, so again, what we're going to do for a problem like this, we pair the x's up. So 4x squared plus 8x plus blank, and then it's minus, in parentheses, y squared minus 4y plus blank, and then it's going to be equal to 4. So first thing we're going to do is we are going to factor out that 4 from the first one. So we factor out the 4, and we're left with x squared plus 2x plus blank. And then we have minus, and now there's nothing to factor out of the y squared, so it's just going to be y squared minus 4y plus blank. And then that's going to be equal to 4 plus blank, which are going to be the blanks from our two problems, right? And so half of 2 is 1, 1 squared is 1, 4 times 1 is 4, okay? Then the next one, negative 4 divided by 2 is -2. That squared is 4, so we get 4. And so what we end up getting is 4 times the quantity, it'd be x plus 1, because it's that half of positive squared, minus, and then we get y minus 2 squared equals, and 4 plus 4 plus 4 is 12, right? Must have done something wrong. Well, it looks like it should be. Anyway, if I divide everything by 12, I would get x plus 1 over 3 minus, all right, well, let's pretend we're on the test and we don't know what happened. We're not quite sure. So what we're going to do then is we are going to, let's just start by graphing this, right? So we'll say 4x squared plus 8x, and then we had minus y squared minus 4y minus 4 equals 0. Okay, so it's a hyperbola. Okay, so that's good to know, right? Because if we go back here, automatically, if it's a hyperbola, it gets rid of c because that's adding. We know that's a ellipse, and it gets rid of that one because it's an ellipse, and it actually gets rid of that one because it's an ellipse. So the only one that makes sense is A. Okay. All right. Now, number 17. What is the graph of x squared plus 25x equals 50? All right. Well, let's graph it. Let's see what it is on Desmos. Squared plus obviously this is an ellipse, right? Because it's skinny, long. So for sure, then our answer for that guy is going to be C. Okay. All right. So that's it. So those 17 problems, your test is going to be very similar to it. Like I said before, make sure you have Desmos at your disposal. Any equations, anything like that you need, you're more than welcome to use those. Okay. Good luck, and we'll see you.